You stand up, and you know exactly why. There is something you need from the next room. A phone, a glass of water, a word you were just about to say. You walk down the hallway, you step through the doorway, and the thought is gone. You stand there, completely blank, staring at the room as if it owes you an answer, and you blame yourself. You decide your memory is slipping. You're tired. You're getting older. Something must be wrong with you. You are wrong about every part of that. The thing that just erased your thought was not your failing brain. It was the door. For the next few minutes, set aside almost everything you assume about your own memory, because the reason you forget the instant you walk through a doorway is not a defect. It is one of the most sophisticated things your mind quietly does thousands of times a day without ever asking your permission. And here is the part to hold on to, even though it will not make sense yet. The same glitch that just embarrassed you in your own kitchen is the exact reason you are able to think clearly at all. Keep that in the back of your mind. It only pays off later. Begin with the moment itself, slowed down. You are in the living room. You form a clear intention. Get the charger from the bedroom. That intention is now being held in a fragile, temporary space in your mind, the mental equivalent of a sticky note pressed lightly to a wall. It is not carved into stone. It is balanced there, just long enough to carry you to the charger. Your brain does not waste permanent storage on something it expects to finish in 12 seconds. So you walk. And as long as you stay inside one continuous space, that sticky note usually holds. But the moment you cross from one room into another, something happens that you have no awareness of whatsoever. Your brain decides that one episode of your life has just ended, and a new one has begun. A psychologist named Gabriel Radvansky at the University of Notre Dame spent years chasing exactly this feeling. He suspected the doorway was not innocent, so he built an experiment to trap it. He had people move through rooms, picking up an object on a table, carrying it and setting it down on another table. Sometimes they crossed the room and travelled a long distance, but stayed in the same room. Other times they travelled the very same distance, but passed through a doorway to do it. Then he tested how well they remembered what they were carrying. The result was clean and a little unsettling. People who walked through a doorway were noticeably worse at remembering the object in their own hands. Not the people who walked farther, the people who walked through a door. Distance was not the thief. The threshold was. You might assume there was something specific about those physical rooms. Maybe a sound, a light, a distraction. So Radvansky and his colleagues rebuilt the entire thing inside a video game. Now, the rooms were not real. People moved through virtual spaces on a screen, picking up and dropping virtual objects, walking through virtual doors that were nothing but pixels, and the effect held. Walking through a doorway that did not physically exist still made people forget. The door did not need to be real. It only needed to be a boundary your mind agreed to treat as the end of one thing and the start of another. So if it is not the room and not the distance, what is actually happening in your head? To answer that, you have to understand that your life does not arrive in your memory as one long, unbroken film. It only feels that way. In reality, your brain is constantly, silently cutting that film into scenes. A researcher named Jeffrey Sachs at Washington University in St. Louis has spent his career studying this, and he gave it a name: event segmentation. Your mind is a relentless editor. It watches the raw footage of your existence and slices it into discrete events, each with a beginning and an end. You can feel it happen when you watch a movie. You sense, without trying, when one scene closes and another opens. Sachs found that people do this automatically, and that they do it at remarkably similar moments. Your brain is built to detect the seams in experience. And it does not just do this with films, it does it with everything. With your day, with your walk to the kitchen, with your entire life. Here is why that matters for the charger you forgot. Every time your brain senses that one event has ended and a new one is starting, it does something deliberate. It files the old scene away and opens a fresh mental workspace for the new one. Zax calls the moment between scenes an event boundary, and at that boundary, your mind essentially wipes the desk clean to make room for whatever comes next. The sticky note holding your intention was sitting on that desk. The doorway is one of the strongest event boundaries your brain recognizes. So when you cross it, the desk gets cleared, and your perfectly good plan goes into the bin along with the scene it belonged to. You did not lose the memory. Your brain archived it, on purpose, a half second too early. And now the question that should be bothering you. Why would evolution build a mind that sabotages itself like this? Why would your brain be designed to throw away a thought you clearly still need? It feels like a bug, a frustrating, useless bug. It is the opposite. And this is where the thing I asked you to remember comes back. Imagine, for a moment, a mind that did not do this. A mind that refused to clear the desk. Every face you ever passed, every conversation, every object you touched, every room you walked through, all of it staying equally vivid, equally present, all at once, forever. That is not a superpower. That is a nightmare. You would be drowning. You would be unable to find the thought you need, because it would be buried under 10 million thoughts you do not. A mind that remembers everything cannot think about anything. The reason you can hold a clear plan in your head at all is that your brain is ferociously good at deciding what to drop. It keeps the present scene sharp by letting the last one fade. The clearing of the desk is not a malfunction. It is the feature that makes focus possible. Your forgetfulness at the doorway is the visible edge of the exact system that keeps your mind from collapsing under the weight of everything you have ever experienced. The doorway just happens to be a place where this brilliant system gets the timing slightly wrong. Your brain treats the change of rooms as a meaningful end of a scene, because for almost all of human history, it usually was. Moving from one space to another genuinely meant a change in context. New place, new threats, new opportunities, new rules. Your ancestors did not stroll between identical rooms in a heated apartment to fetch a phone charger. When they crossed a real boundary, the cave mouth, the edge of the forest, the riverbank, the world on the other side, was genuinely different. And updating their mental model fast could mean survival. The brain that quickly dumped the old scene and locked onto the new one was the brain that noticed the predator first. You inherited that brain. It is still doing its ancient job perfectly. It is just doing it inside a house full of doorways that lead to nothing dangerous at all. The system is not broken. It is simply running prehistoric software in a world of hallways and bedrooms it was never designed for. And it goes deeper than just the rooms you walk through. Once you understand event boundaries, you start seeing them everywhere in your own forgetting. You walk into a kitchen and forget, but you also open a new browser tab and forget what you wanted to look up. You switch from one task to another and the first one evaporates. You change the subject in a conversation and lose the brilliant point you were about to make. These are all doorways. They are all your brain detecting a boundary and clearing the desk. The physical door was only ever the most obvious version of something your mind does with every shift in your attention. There is even a stranger layer to this. Zach's and others have found that these boundaries are also the moments your brain chooses to consolidate memory, to decide what was important enough to keep. The very seams that make you forget your immediate intention are the seams along which your long-term memories are stitched. The thing that costs you a charger is the same thing that lets you remember the shape of a whole day instead of an undifferentiated blur. You are not paying a price for nothing. You are paying it for the ability to have an organized past at all. So what do you actually do about it? Standing there blank in the bedroom? The trick falls out naturally from understanding the cause. The problem is that your intention is fragile, and your brain keeps closing the scene it lives in. So you have two simple options. The first is to refuse to let the scene close. Keep the intention active by saying it, out loud or in your head, the whole way there. Charger, charger, charger. You are forcing the sticky note to stay on the desk by holding it down with attention, so the boundary cannot sweep it away. The second is to attach the thought to something physical that will travel with you across the boundary. Pick up the empty cup you mean to refill. Hold your phone if you are going to find its charger. Let the object carry the intention through the door, because the object survives the scene change even when the thought does not. And the next time it happens anyway, because it will. Notice what you do not need to feel. You do not need the small spike of worry that something is wrong with your mind. Nothing is wrong with your mind. What you felt in that doorway was not decay. It was design. It was a 2 million-year-old editing system doing precisely what it was built to do, clearing the stage so the next scene of your life could begin clean. You stood up, and you knew exactly why. The door, doing its ancient and faithful job, simply decided that part of your story was over. It was wrong by about 12 seconds. It is wrong by 12 seconds a dozen times a day. And every single time, it is the same quiet proof that your mind is not failing you. It is protecting you, one cleared desk at a time, from remembering everything.